That is your Super Saturday for round 18 of the 2023 NRL season in the rearview mirror. And as much as I just want to sit here and talk about what was a pretty phenomenal game once again in the Battle of Brisbane, one of the game's fastest growing rivalries, when there is a monumental record that has been shattered, we may as well talk about it because the North Queensland Cowboys just secured the biggest winning margin in the NRL era. 74-0 over the West Tigers. And look, after 66-18, I thought, I was one of those people, I'll put me hand up. I wrote the Cowboys off, and while I still don't think they can win the competition, I think they can definitely be there in September. That game for the Cowboys, what we saw earlier on Saturday night, was the definition of, and I took that personally, 74-0. I tipped the Cowboys to win 13 plus. I thought they would definitely want to get some redemption, some retribution for that shellacking that they took from the Tigers earlier in the season. And while I guess under certain circumstances you could say that the Tigers win was still probably a bigger effort, God, the biggest ever winning margin in the NRL era. The Cowboys, once they scored that first try through Tom Dearden in the 14th minute, they just never, ever looked back. I mean, just the stats are ridiculous. 63% of possession, 86% completion rate compared to 53. They ran for nearly double, nearly 2.5 the Tigers' running meters. They doubled their post contact, 13-1 line breaks, 54-28 tackle breaks. I mean, the West Tigers, they had a quicker play the ball speed, but have you ever seen just a team where they threw the most ridiculous offloads and they all stuck? I mean, it was just quite simply phenomenal. The Cowboys, they've completely turned the corner. I know that it's been like a quote-unquote hard draw. When you look at the teams they faced South Sydney without Latrell Mitchell. They faced the Penrith Panthers without all their origin stars. But they've still been winning and they've still been looking very, very good. The West Tigers. Season was already done. I don't think Luke Brooks is worth 116 points. If he is, then come to Manly now, Brooksy. But I just think that the Tigers, they were always in for a rude awakening in this game. I mean, Toddy Payton would have circled this the Sunday morning after they copped that huge loss to the Tigers just 6 weeks ago. A 116-point turnaround, absolutely phenomenal. If this was cheeky soccer finals, then the Cowboys would win on aggregate, but all their stars stood up in this game. I mean, there's just, who can't you talk about? Scotty Drinkwater, he's probably going to be a smoky for Dally M fullback of the year. Obviously, Tedesco's out of form, and then the big dogs, Latrell Mitchell, Tom Trbojevic, they're out. Reece Walsh is probably up there at the moment, but I don't know if he still cops like a penalty for his suspension, but he was phenomenal. Valemei, can't see Felt coming back in. Holmes, Hiku, Taulagi. Tom Dearden is looking absolutely immaculate. All their forwards stood up. Reuben Cotter was a freak. Reece Robson, he better be earning an Origin recall. Simply outstanding. There's not much more to say. The West Tigers were atrocious, but at this point, the Tigers, they were looking at 2024 about 6 weeks ago. So it's embarrassing. I tell you what, I wouldn't want to be playing the Tigers next week. Tim Sheens, he summed it up in his press conference. What can you say? Just focus on next week. One of the worst games of rugby league to watch as a neutral, but I guess it's quite funny just seeing the North Queensland Cowboys absolutely destroy the West Tigers to secure the biggest winning margin of the NRL era. Obviously, the main event of Saturday night was the Battle of Brisbane 2, the first ever game at the Gabba. The Broncos, they picked up a 24-16 win over the mighty Dolphins. They were calling them Redcliffe all week. It is slowly, well, not slowly, in fact, the opposite. One of the fastest growing rivalries in the NRL, the Brisbane Broncos, they get the double. They win the first 2 meetings. The big story out of this game, Selwyn Cobbo, the Throbbo, the throbbing Throbbo. What is there more to say? This dude is scoring tries. He looks like he's having the most fun ever. He's on so much money for a kid his age, and he's in the press conference, and he's the most humble guy ever. I mean, yeah, we all hate Brisbane, but how do you hate these Brisbane Broncos without Reece Walsh and they still managed to score 24 points? And Selwyn Cobbo did 2 of them individually. Herbie Farnworth was great too. Between those 2, they actually scored all their tries. The Dolphins, they hung in there. Unfortunately, the Dolphins, I feel like they might have just hit their ceiling. I feel like we might be seeing the drop-off that we all sort of expected. I mean, this was definitely the best performance they've put in over the past month, but I think they've lost 4 in a row now. The hammer at centre, I understand the thinking behind it, and he did score that first try that was overturned and did look good in the centres, but he needs his hand on the ball as much as possible. He's one of the premier players in the world right now, and for this Dolphin side especially, he needs to get the ball as much as he can. I thought Tafare was pretty good. Tessie New did a job. Sean O'Sullivan and Kintola, they're going all right, but yeah, it was a pretty bloody good game. There was a bit of scrappiness in the first 50 minutes, but I thought the last 30 in that second half really saved it. You know, the back and forth, and then Cobbo's 2 tries at the end to put the game to bed. Easily the best game of the round so far, and I can't wait to see how this rivalry develops. A lot of people won't like this, but you could argue already a top 5 rivalry because, you know what? Unlike Broncos-Cowboys, they actually kind of hate each other. Little brother versus older brother. Gold Coast, look, you're not even in the ballpark, boys, I'm sorry to say. But these games, they've sold out the first 2. I can't wait to see how this goes because everyone loves the Dolphins at the moment and the Broncos, to think how good they are. They finished last like 3 years ago. They didn't even make the finals last year. And look, I know Kevy's stressing that they're going to fall out again, but surely not. But I am saying surely not, with the hope that it would kind of be funny if they did it again. But yeah, a decent Saturday night. Certainly a memorable one. Selwyn Cobbo, and then the Cowboys pumping the absolute shit out of the West Tigers. Ladies and gentlemen, as always, smash that like button if you enjoyed the video. Comment down below what was the biggest takeaway for you from both of these games, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. We're past 5K. Thank you so much. I've got to do something planned for that, and by that I mean I've got to plan something for that, but thank you so much. So do the big 3, and I'll see you in the next one. Friday night.